the next session is timely and high quality and appropriate treatment. It's my great pleasure to introduce Judy Burns, who's the Executive Director of the Regina Drug Treatment Court and spent her early career managing detox and residential addictions treatment programs. In 2005, she worked on the proposal for the Regina Drug Treatment Court. And in 2009, she joined the court as the manager. And I'm happy to also report that the Regina Court also recently celebrated their 100th drug court graduate. So I'm going to turn over the floor to Ms. Burns and to introduce your panel.
Thank you very much, Dennis. And more research. You're a good researcher.
Have to take a look.
This morning we have a great panel for you. I'm going to introduce them and then they're going to go through their presentations. We'll take Q&A at the end. So please post in the chat and I'll get those together for the panel. So we have today Kemi Jacobs is the Executive Director of the Delta Family Resource Center. She has over 20 years of community involvement, having been a leader in the public and non-government sectors. She will be speaking about the new culturally relevant programming Delta Family and Partners have created to help youth and families develop strong and positive racial identities. Along with her, her co-presenter will be Holly Lubert. She is Crown Counsel at Justice Centers. She has had over a decade of appellate prosecutorial experience and has appeared at every level of court in Ontario and the Supreme Court of Canada, with regular appearances at the Court of Appeal for Ontario. She has significant experience working with collaborative court models, previously acting as the Deputy Director of Inmate Appeals at the Crown Law Office Criminal. Most recently, she has been working with Dana Aaron, Executive Director of Justice Centers across the 4 Justice Center sites at the Downtown East, Toronto Northwest, London, and Kenora pilots. Following those ladies, we will have Jennifer Lysay. Jennifer has been working in the field of addictions and mental health for the past 18 years. She graduated with an honors BA from the University of Toronto in criminal psychology, history, and music history. She then pursued the postgraduate program in Durham College in addictions and mental health. The 18-month program included a 4-month practicum, which she completed at Pinewood Center of Lakewood Health in Oshawa, Ontario. She was hired after practicum by the agency, first in their women's residential program and then in their community treatment outpatient program. Ms. Lysay also assisted in the development of Pinewood's alcohol and drug awareness program for the direct accountability program in alcohol and drug awareness. The direct accountability program in partnership with the Ministry of the Attorney General. Ms. Lysay joined the Durham Drug Treatment Court and Mental Health Court in 2005 and continues to work as one of the treatment providers in the program today, as well as continues to work in the community treatment outpatient program. Ms. Lysay became a registered psychotherapist in 2017 through the College of Registered Psychotherapists in Ontario. We will then listen to Nicole Hermanson. Nicole has had a 20-year career with the BC Corrections Branch. During this time, she's worked in various integrated multidisciplinary settings, which aim to assess individuals with complex mental health and addiction needs. Nicole has been involved with Drug Treatment Court of Vancouver since 2009 and has a passion for working within therapeutic problem-solving treatment court processes. Our final speaker will be Aspasia Papatheodoro. She is a lawyer with the Legal Aid Ontario. She's a graduate of the University of Toronto and Queen's University and was admitted to the Ontario Bar in 2007. Since 2008, she has worked as criminal duty counsel at Old City Hall, representing clients in the Toronto Drug Treatment Court, the Mental Health Court, and the Indigenous Persons Court. She has participated as a speaker both nationally and internationally on the topic of drug treatment courts. So we shall turn that over to Kemi and Holly.
Thank you.
All right, I guess, should I get started, Kemi?
Yes, yeah, please do, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, I'd just like to start by thanking the organizers very much for inviting us to speak. I'm here to give a little bit of information about Ontario's new justice centers and specifically the Toronto Northwest Justice Center, really to help give you guys a little bit of context to better understand the really innovative and meaningful work that Delta Family Resource Center is doing in collaboration with MAG's Toronto Northwest Justice Center to support youth, and really specifically to support Black youth who are in conflict with the criminal justice system as part of my pilot. And I'm aware that my colleagues, Mike Brooks and Miriam Henry, who's actually the Toronto Northwest Crown lead, spoke to yesterday. And Miriam would be here today, but she's actually in court running this today right now as we speak. So you're gonna have to put up with me for the next 5 minutes. But we've collaborated, so we hope we're gonna give you some new information. Can I get the next slide, Cameron?
Yep.
Great. So before we sort of spotlight the Toronto Northwest Justice Center, I just wanted to give you a little bit of context about what our new justice centers are, because to understand the unique role that Delta Family Resources Centers programming is playing, you need to know a bit about what we're doing. So what are justice centers and what are they about? At its core, it's about innovating the way we deliver justice services from the inside out. As you heard, I'm a career prosecutor, and we're sort of the ones who are involved in really trying to innovate the way that we do our jobs. And it's about creating a community court model. We know the community courts have been cropping up internationally. And what are they? It's really a local neighborhood focused court that applies a problem solving approach to local crime and safety. Is it a new diversion court? No, it's not. Is it about replacing any of our existing diversion courts? No, it's not. It's about trying to take accused who are not eligible for diversion or for any of our existing specialized courts and finding a way to do justice better for those people. So really, for example, in the Toronto Northwest, it specifically includes and incorporates accused who choose to plead not guilty. It will in other courts, and as our pilots expand, choose to include people who will be going to jail. So it's about doing things a little bit differently. Can I get the next slide, Kelly?
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so what are we doing in Ontario? We know we've got community courts internationally. What is Ontario doing? In Ontario, we are creating spaces that co-locate courtrooms and justice services with front-end supports like primary health care, mental health supports, with prevention services like employment and skills training, and with community reintegration supports like peer counseling. So it's one-stop shopping, all under one roof. And how are we doing this in Ontario? In Ontario, we've decided to go into community and listen. Or in the case of the Toronto Northwest, we've decided to not ask people questions we know they've been asked before, but to do a deep dive into the socio-legal research that exists to determine what kind of local justice solutions will actually best meet the local need of the people who are there on the ground and who know what's happening. And so where have we done this? In Ontario, just to give you an idea of the breadth of the program, we've done this in 4 places. We've done this in the Toronto Downtown East. In the Toronto Downtown East, we have a hybrid health and justice center. The goal there is to address chronic recidivists who are living sort of at the intersection of homelessness, underhousing, poverty, mental health, and addictions difficulty. And it's really focused on healthcare. We're doing this in London, where we found a high proportion of NEET youth aged 18 to 24 who are otherwise not in education, training, or employment. And that focus is really on addressing mental health addictions and training and peer supports. We're also planning to launch in Kenora. Our pilot in Kenora is going to focus on the problem of Indigenous overrepresentation. It's going to include parallel criminal and Indigenous processes. But we're here specifically to talk about the Toronto Northwest. Kemi, can I grab the next slide? Okay, thank you. The Toronto Northwest. So what does this slide tell us? It tells us in the Toronto Northwest, we are covering a lot of territory. The purpose of this is to show our catchment area for the cases that we're pulling from. We're pulling matters from TPS divisions 12, 22, 23, 31, 32, and 33. So a lot of cases. Our pilot is also going to be aimed at youth in particular. And at the Toronto Northwest Justice Center, the purpose of the pilot, as was developed by and for the community that it's serving, was to be a response to community violence and gun crime that's aimed at addressing the intersection of poverty and criminal justice on youth, and particularly racialized youth aged 12 to 17, by providing culturally relevant programming. And that's one of the reasons, of course, why we partnered with Delta Family. The pilot offers targeted multi-sector community supports and programming designed to wrap around youth and meet underlying need to break the cycle of offending. And in terms of, to give you a little bit idea of, would I be able to get the slide just before this, Kemi? The robbery pilot? That's okay.
There you go.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, and just to give you, I see I'm cognizant of my time. I'm running a little bit out of time, but
That's
just
good.
one of the pilots that we're running in the Toronto Northwest is our robbery pilot. And you sort of say, you know, why robbery? And we know there's a lot of robbery in the Toronto Northwest. We know that at 2201 Finch, we know 1 in every 5 youth cases is a robbery case. That's a very high percentage. We know that it's a gateway offense. We know it can be an indicator of future criminal involvement. We know youth tend to commit it in groups. And we also know that the victims of these robberies also tend to be youth. So at the Toronto Northwest, we're trying to work differently with victim services so that we can offer services to those victims, because we know that, you know, we see in this offense the cycle of victimization and offending. Somebody is a victim one day, they're an offender the next, and a witness the next. So we want to be able to have that flexibility to offer services to sort of break that cycle of offending, you know, when at this point, when people are still young. We're also trying to work with families differently. So we have the flexibility at the Toronto Northwest Justice Centre that if we see a sibling falling into some of the similar patterns that an older sibling may be falling to, we have the flexibility to direct some programming there. What kind of program are we talking about? I'm going to address that really quickly. First off, one of the key features of our pilot is that when an accused comes into the Justice Centre, which is usually within 21 days of arrest, so very quick, right? We're not waiting for the Jordan timelines to run out. We're addressing things quite quickly. We'll develop an individualized plan. Accused will work with a community service navigator to determine which services and supports are required and put them into place. And we have some wonderful services and supports. We have a dedicated child and forensic psychiatrist who is right there available to provide help when needed. We also have an education advocate, a lawyer from Justice for Children and Youth who is tasked with reconnecting youth with school and helping identify and secure future educational pathways for them. Another feature is judicial case management, so that we know our matters will return to the Justice Centre at flexible intervals for judicial monitoring. And I want to keep in mind, this isn't just any old check-in, right? This is a check-in with a judge of the Ontario Court of Justice. So it's a big check-in. It's a significant feature. Our other feature is to have tailored programming. And specifically culturally relevant tailored programming for the individuals who come into the Justice Centre. And this is, I think, where Delta Family Resource Centres comes in.
We're going to speak about some of the
first appearance. I'll give you very, very quick. I'm very cognizant of my time. For our first appearance pilot, it's another feature. And just to give you some idea, for the first appearance pilot, all of the out of custody youth cases from those catchment areas will come into the Justice Centre for their first appearance. They may return to 2201 Finch, but the purpose is to bring them into the Justice Centre so that they can have the option, if they want to continue on in the Justice Centre. And even if they don't, they have the option to access all of the services that are available in our mainstream robbery pilot, should they wish to.
Okay, thank you very much, Harley. You did really well with the time. So we've been
I tried.
You did really well. So yeah, okay, good. So I'll tell you a bit about Delta Family Resource Centre and specifically the supports that we provide. If I want you to take away 3 things from my presentation, and I think the context was that Harley provided was really important in terms of the partnership between MAG and Delta Family, and not just Delta Family, but other community partners. So the 3 things I want you to take away are 1, the whole person, 2, culturally relevant services, and 3, the community. So Delta Family provides wraparound culturally appropriate services and programs for Black communities. We have been in Northwest Toronto for more than 40 years. Our strategic priorities, and I'm giving you all of this because it fits within a context: reducing poverty and community capacity building, enhancing family wellness and mental health, prioritizing programs focused on Black communities, also enhancing services for families, youth, and seniors. So we have 2 youth justice programs where we work with the entire judicial system. So Meridane works with youth from 12 to 17, and we're hoping to expand that, but it provides culturally appropriate wraparound services to Black and racialized youth and their families. That piece is really important because we treat the whole person. A young person who comes in contact with the justice system, it doesn't just happen to her or him, it's the entire family that is traumatized. And we really want to make sure that our motif almost, so to speak, is making sure that contact with the justice system does not wreck the lives of Black youth and their families. It connects youth and their families to external referrals and other supports. We have youth justice workers, and within Delta Family, we also have counselors. Another program, which is federally funded, is the Ounce of Prevention, or PEMPANSI. We have 8 youth justice and reintegration workers, 2 counselors, wraparound supports, and peer supports. And basically, they support the youth and the entire family. We speak about culturally relevant services, and it's become almost like a password. What does that mean? For us at Delta Family and our partners, it means seeing people who look like you. A lot of the young people who go through the justice system are Black, and they don't see many other Black people. It's changing, except other people who are charged. So when they come into an organization like Delta Family, they see people who look like them. The space reflects them. Counselors who get it. Nothing is worse than, and we've heard this from clients, having to repeat themselves and tell their story to people who really just kind of look at them in shock. So it's really important to feel that the staff and the youth justice workers who you're working with actually get it. Music is a big part of youth culture. So using music as an engagement tool. The names of our programs, Memere Dane is an Adinkra symbol, which means time changes, because we hope that things will change for young people as they go through our programs. Pempansi is it's an word talking about unity in strength, being ready. So again, we really affirm Black African identity. Our events are also a big piece of the work that we do. And this is a resource book that we developed for youth workers in the justice system. We look at some of the work that the youth justice team does with young people who are charged around identity. Then goes a SABA, which are principles which govern Black community. Self-advocacy and system navigation. Those are some of the types of things that we do with young people and their families. Youth justice services, these are some of the things that we do. The services we provide, tailored, culturally relevant, customized approaches to supporting families. Justice navigation, accessible, user-friendly short videos. With MAG, we've developed a series of 5 short videos, which really just say your first court appearance, words you'll hear in court and what they mean, tips on choosing a lawyer, those types of things. We also have a series of Black focus programs. So it's not just the one program, there are other things that the young person who is in trouble with the law can also connect with, and their families. So we have programs like Motivated Mamas, Black Dads, home daycare training, etc., etc. Our counseling department, again, it provides culturally appropriate services and supports for families. And it also looks at non-traditional ways of healing as well. Yeah. Support, so we provide a food security, one-on-one counseling, job search and preparation, and again, partnership is really important. We can't do it on our own. No one agency has everything. So it's really important to work with partners. We have a school and family advocate program where workers in schools advocate with Black families and students when they face anti-Black racism in the school system. So we're looking at a real wraparound service. We're looking at a holistic approach. And this is where a young person who is feeling very isolated, feeling very marginalized, will begin to connect with community and see that there are supports for them. The SNAP program works with young people who are having behavioral problems and their families again, and helps them to make their problems smaller. That's one of the things that they speak about. We have programs for seniors, storytelling, networking, Zumba. We have a sewing hub, a sewing repair hub, where people can get things repaired and learn how to sew. Maybe pick up a little side gig. So we're looking at the whole person in different ways. With COVID, we've had to do a lot, and I'm really aware of the time, and very shortly. With COVID, we also look at supporting families who have been affected by COVID, lost jobs, etc., needing food. And so overall, the services that we provide with our partners and working with MAG ensure that Black youth who are in conflict with the law have a soft place to land. I think that's the end of my presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So I'm sure there may be questions, but I know I have three other colleagues waiting to tell you about their services. So I'll end here. Thank you. I think the next speaker was it Jen?
Yes, it is. Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. So today, what I would like to speak about is kind of a combination of the services that are offered through my primary workplace, which is Pinewood Center, which is through the mental health program of Lakeridge Health. So I'll start by sharing my screen. So Pinewood Center has had a very strong collaboration over the years when it comes to, sorry about that, dealing with the justice system and assisting clients. And that has been something that has really been focused through our agency. Okay. Sorry, it's not sharing, it's not switching sides. There we go. So some of the programs that we do offer are the Youth Diversion Program, which it is a program that allows youth to, instead of receiving charges, they will be allowed to access treatment through us. And whatever their treatment program is, they will come up with it with a counselor. And it's a partnership with the Durham Region Police, John Howard Society, Eastview Boys and Girls Club, and Pinewood Center. So, and it's to divert youth by getting them into an appropriate community-based service so that, you know, because sometimes it's about getting life skills or learning new information with the hope that it will help them to decide to make positive changes. We no longer are running this at Pinewood Center, but we were, and it was a direct accountability. And again, similar kind of opportunity for individuals who have minor charges and would benefit from some sort of treatment. Now, it is offered through the John Howard Society in our area, but we would offer the alcohol and drug awareness program. So when a substance was involved in their charge, they would be offered to come to our agency and do the this program, and then they would go back to court and their matter would be dealt with. We also offer what we call a Pathways program, which is a pre-contemplative type of program for individuals that, you know, don't really know or don't really feel that they might have a problem or need more education around that. We really find that majority of our clients are fit with the probation or have been recently charged, or those individuals really fit in our Pathways program. We offer it to any client that comes into our agency, but I would say that a huge majority of them are our probation or clients that are involved with the legal system. And what it does is it helps client to get a different perspective on all life areas, not just their substance use, but basically looking at how their substance use impacts the issues that they're dealing with, right? We have the mental health support unit, which also helps individuals who have been charged have substance use related, but it's more results of their mental health. So we have a specific worker that will work with them to help get the treatment that they need. Concurrent disorders court diversion program, similar kind of situation where individuals will you know, get the treatment. They might have to meet with a psychiatrist. They meet with another agency that has now part of Lakeridge Health, Durham Mental Health Services. So together with Pinewood Center and Durham Mental Health, they come up with a treatment plan for the individual to get the treatment that they need and also deal with their charges. But in this way, it's not just, if you want to say, jail time or a fine or anything. They're actually getting, sometimes it's life skills. The individual doesn't have the life skills to deal with with life, and they're able to pick that up through these programs. And finally is the Durham Drug Treatment and Mental Health Court Program, which I am one of the treatment providers for. So, for clients who are, have extensive nonviolent criminal charges related to their substance use, and they have mental health issues. So we look at it from the perspective of, we will address both. Instead of custody, we offer a type of therapy or treatment type program for these individuals. And we work as a team. In our team is many different agencies, with that, we have the local judiciary, we have the Durham Crown's Office, the PPSC, Pinewood Center, Durham Mental Health, Durham Regional Police Service, the bail program, Salvation Army, probation if required. And together we work as a team to help this individual, because again, it really is about life skills and just learning the basics. So rather than putting them in custody and repeating the scenario over and over and over again, the opportunity is to hopefully show them something different. And we've had a lot of successes in our program, many graduations, and with clients that what it does is it instills hope. Many clients come into the program and that's something that they don't have. Whether it be life or trauma or various things that has happened as a result, they come to our program in a place where they feel like resigned. And as a result, they're unable to see anything else. But I feel through drug treatment court, we're able to show them that. So, simple things that others might think, oh, some may take for granted, but to complete, we assist them with stable housing, no use for 3 months. We help to stabilize their mental health and help to make lifestyle choices that support their recovery. And I think that is the most important thing that we have to recognize is it's not just once they finish the program, okay, they're done. They are able to maintain and support those changes on their own. Okay. So other programs that we can refer to while individuals are in our program are the withdrawal management, the intensive outreach program, so individual counselors that work in the community for clients that are homeless or transient. We have an addictions day program, mental health day program. We can refer to a psychiatrist if necessary. We have our RAM clinics, which have been really key in assisting us with stabilizing clients, whether it be opioid replacement therapy or through anti-craving medications, or even just getting a person stable on their medications. They've been really helpful in doing that with us. Our early psychosis intervention program, individuals that have experienced first episode psychosis, there's a team that will work with them. Positive care clinic for any health issues that clients might be dealing with. A referral to residential treatment for women. So we have one in-house, but we can also refer out to one for men. A supportive housing program, and smoking cessation, which is one thing that clients really say, that's something that I would like to work on. So we do that. What I'd like to note is, as I listen to everyone's presentation and my co-presenters, that the key, I think, what ties the justice and treatment together is the use of motivational interviewing. So up you see that techniques rest on the findings in clinical experience and research that simply show that clients who believe they can change do so. And those who are told that they are not expected to improve indeed do not. And I think that is key to all of these programs, or in this collaboration that's happening with justice and treatment, is that there is the foundation of motivational interviewing, which is so important, because what it does is it helps the individual to create change. So it provides the individual with the opportunity to take control, because a lot of times they don't have control. So what you're doing is providing them choice. And one thing I like to say is, even though, they might present to us initially and say, I don't want to do this program, I'm being forced to do this program. Often I say, well, what is your options if you don't do the program? And they'll say, well, okay, well, I'll go to jail or I'll get a fine. So in the end, you're making a choice. You're making a choice to not go to jail or not pay a fine. You're making a choice to do this program instead. And rephrasing it to them from that perspective gets them to see it in a different light and help them to realize that it's not the probation, it's not the courts or anything that's in control, it's they're in control. And I think that is the key with all of these programs. As I listened to my previous co-presenters program, again, it's all instilling choice and options and just empowering clients. And it's done through the justice programs as well as in the treatment programs. Individuals' autonomy is respected. The collaboration helps to build rapport, brings on trust in the relationships with the clients, right? Because working in the courts and seeing sometimes as being a treatment provider in drug treatment court, I'm seen as an extension of the court. You're going to tell the judge, I'm going to get in trouble. So a lot of that is, as well as with the judge, is assisting the client to see that we're on your side. And sometimes it takes a long time to build up that trust because every time they've been in court, it hasn't been a supportive experience. So focusing on the strengths and instilling hope for the clients and showing them that even small change, hey, it's been one day and you haven't used, but for the past 3 months, you've used every day, that's a success. Because the justice system is collaborating and doing these partnerships, it really is helping to create those change. Before I finish, I'd like to share a case example of an individual that we worked with, and very entrenched with the drug culture and behaviors, and had been doing that for, it must have been about 30 years or so, multiple charges, repeat offenses, very engaged, multiple overdoses, and was estranged from his family. And finally, and often at times throughout those years would seek treatment, but the last charge was an opportunity to really make some changes and was entered into our program. He really struggled with life skills because he had been using for such a long time, simple things of how to deal with sadness, how to deal with happiness, how to deal with anger, stress. All those things were a challenge to him, and he didn't know because his first go-to was using a substance. And over a period of several months, first of all, again, we worked really hard as a team to help him to build up the trust. And then he was able to come to a place where this individual was using fentanyl daily, and he was able to come to a place where he stopped using. There was sporadic relapses, but he was able to come to a place where he was able to rebuild the relationship with his family, which was huge for him and huge for his family. Unfortunately, he relapsed and he did overdose and he passed away, which was definitely a huge shock to the team. And it really, it set into place how dangerous the use of the opioids and fentanyl is and how easily people can overdose. But I think the bright light out of that was the family reaching out to the team and saying to us, you know what? We thank you because we actually got a period of time to be with our son, the person we knew, because we hadn't seen that person for so long. So it's that kind of stuff that working together not only helps to heal the person, but also helps to heal the family. And I think to close off, I'll just say, these are two articles that I've referenced in this presentation. really good information on working with motivational interviewing in the criminal justice system, right? Because it's not just a change for the clients, but it's also a change for the providers. Huge. I mean, the change for the justice system, change for the judge, the crown, all of that, change for the treatment providers, right? We wouldn't necessarily say, oh yes, we want our client to go to jail, but we have to recognize that that might be an option. And I think I can say for our program in Durham, what I do note is that we respect each other's roles. So we respect the fact that there's certain things that we can do and there's certain things that we can't do, certain things that we can say and certain things we cannot say. And we respect the policies of each other's agencies, which helps to really create a positive environment, an atmosphere, so that we can provide treatment and focus on the treatment goals of working with the client. So in turn, the motivational interviewing as well comes into how we operate as a team and the respect and the choice that we offer each other's. Thank you for allowing me to present today. And I believe it's Aspasia. No, it's Nicole next, sorry.
I think it's my turn. I am hopeful everyone can see and hear me okay. And I will start with sharing my screen. What I can say is I'm here joining from Vancouver, British Columbia, and I will say it is the crack of dawn here. I'm facing east, so as I do this presentation, maybe you will start to see the sunrise. I'm sitting here in the dark. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And let's get the show on the road here. So I'm the local manager for the Drug Treatment Court of Vancouver. We are the only drug treatment court in British Columbia. We're located in Vancouver, BC, and we're literally at the epicenter of the opioid crisis. And so we have two locations, essentially. As it says here on the slide, we have the courthouse, which is located at 222 Main Street, and then we have our treatment and resource center. So what exactly is Drug Treatment Court of Vancouver? It's essentially similar to many of the other drug courts across the province and across the country. It's a specialized court offering coordinated integrated support for adults struggling with addiction and who have been charged with a criminal offense. It's a problem-solving court strategy in the criminal justice system, and it offers an opportunity for individuals to choose treatment over custodial dispositions and or lengthy community supervision. All of our team is trained in trauma-informed practice, and also we employ a harm reduction model. And now with the harm reduction model, the ultimate goal is abstinence, but we understand that harm reduction is on a continuum, and everyone's place within that continuum will vary. The ultimate goal also is to improve life skills, housing, employment, and education, and the overall quality of life for our participants. So what is the team? Essentially, it's a designated judge, a designated Crown Counsel, designated Defense Counsel, and an integrated team. Now, the integrated team at the Treatment and Resource Center, we are all located together. So I think this is one of the things that makes our drug court unique, is that we're under one roof in terms of the integrated treatment center team. And with that team, we have our corrections staff. The local health authority is contracted, so Vancouver Coastal Health, and we also have the Ministry of Social Development. So what does that mean specifically? So we have a local manager and we have 2 probation officers. Within the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority, we have a clinical supervisor, a physician, a nurse, trained addictions counselors, a peer support worker, program assistant, and a psychologist. We also have the Ministry of Social Development and Social Innovation. So we're able to provide wraparound care for the individuals that come into our program. There's the team. And I'd be remiss if I didn't add this photo. We actually won an award that day, so we're pretty happy. We won a provincial award in excellence for spirit, in the spirit category, for our work with Indigenous participants and with our Indigenous cultural programming. So I had to add that slide. Okay, so what is the treatment program? It's roughly a 14-month program, and it can take longer. We can have clients in the program for up to 2 years, 2.5 years. It's really based on their progress in the program. It's a phased group-based program with individual support and to complete treatment. So there's group programming as well as the individual support and individual counseling. The program involves a holistic approach to treating addictions as well as the criminogenic thought processes. So treatment modalities that are used, CBD, crisis intervention. We have a unique court where sanctions and rewards are offered. Legal supervision, so there's regular court appearances for the participant, depending on where they are in the program. They can appear anywhere from 2 times a week to once per month. So how they are progressing through the program will determine their court appearances. There's urine screening, individual counseling, pharmacological treatment. We do have a methadone doctor, and we are able to prescribe and monitor any kind of withdrawal management and OAT therapy. We also do referrals to housing and vocational services. So who comes into the drug treatment court program? So anybody who is addicted to the CDSA substances, so any illicit substances, cocaine, opiates, methamphetamine. We are seeing in Vancouver a very high percentage of individuals that are addicted to opioids, given the opioid crisis. So we also, so who can we not accept? We don't take any individuals that have a high risk for violence, any domestic violence, sex offenders, or residential B&E. The reason for that is we don't provide the specific programming for those types of offenders. That can be done in other community supervision offices. No gang or criminal association. No one on a conditional sentence order. And charges elsewhere that interfere with participation in drug treatment court. Now, having said that, we have opened up our borders and we are able to take anyone in the province if they are willing to relocate. COVID has really assisted us in being able to do virtual programming as well as virtual screening. So we are taking people from all around the province, provided they are willing to relocate. Another individual that would be ineligible is someone who's subject to removal from Canada. So it's best if they are a citizen, a Canadian citizen, or a permanent resident. And also if there's a language barrier. Now, having said that, we also do accept participants that have language barriers, and we can refer them to English classes or tutorials. These are some photos at our treatment and resource center. We do what we can to make it seem warm and welcoming and inclusive and non-institutional. So how is our drug court effective? Essentially, it addresses their criminal addictive behaviors with appropriate sanctions and intervention treatment. It's a coordinated treatment and offender supervision, which works better together and as an integrated unit. So research has shown that drug courts significantly improve substance abuse treatment outcomes, substantially reduce crime, and produce greater cost benefit than many other justice strategies. So there has been some research, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later in the presentation. With regards to the integration piece is very essential and really harmonizing justice and health. So through program, there's a number of things that work and a number of things that are done. Group counseling, so like I had mentioned before, it's a phase-based program. There's 4 phases, and it is group counseling, and it is group therapy that is really at the heart of this program. Now, having said that, there's individual counseling and case management. We pair a probation officer with a counselor, and they're called a care team. So that care team will have a caseload and will be able to address the individual in a holistic way. And with culturally relevant programming and relevant material, they will employ motivational interviewing and really wrap around care and treatment programming for the individual. And as mentioned before, we have a doctor as well as a nurse. There's a little idea of their setup. Many of the participants that come into the program have been entrenched, street entrenched, and really have not seen a medical professional in a number of years. So this could be their first opportunity to get just a very basic checkup and assessment. So this is a very good opportunity to address their healthcare needs. Urine drug screening is an integral part of our programming. The clients are screened, and with urine screened, depending on where they are in the program, how often, no less than 1 time per week, but they could be screened. It's a randomized process. They could be screened multiple times a week, but no less than once per week. And we are looking at what substances they're using. And we ask for a disclosure prior to them providing their urine screen. The nurse will ask them for a disclosure of what they have used. A participant is never sanctioned for use, but what is important around their use is their honesty. So they fill out a form, and they will be asked what substances they've used in the last week. And we're looking for them to be honest about that. Now, if they are dishonest, then they could face speaking to the judge about that and a sanction in court. However, having said that, there is never a sanction for use. We expect, especially when participants come into the program, we expect that they are using, and we just need to know what they're using so we can provide adequate treatment programming for them. So what are some of the other things that the team does for community reintegration? We do outreach support, home visits, community special events and outings, one-to-one outreach for appointments, referral to community services, and follow-up support. We have ongoing relationships with a number of recovery houses in the community. So the team is able to place participants in recovery houses quite quickly and right from custody. So we'll do treatment planning as soon as somebody comes into the program. If they come in from custody, then we're able to place them in a recovery house. We transport them to the recovery house. We bring them to the services that's required. And we also provide transportation, bus tickets when they come to the treatment center, and snacks and lunches. So it's a really therapeutic, warm place for them to be. Another thing that should be mentioned is we utilize various services in the community. Withdrawal management. We have a couple of withdrawal management sites in the downtown Vancouver area. And we also use the Rapid Access Clinic outside of in our St. Paul's Hospital. And so they can access OAT therapy quite quickly if need be. So it is important to mention that our court piece is designated crown, a designated judge, and a designated defense. We meet and do pre-court before court, and I believe other drug courts across the country run this way. We do pre-court prior to each individual's court appearance. We will do a meeting about the court list for the day, and it's a collaborative, integrated process. And it's really important to mention at this point that the participants really, their relationship with the judge is essential. 80% of participants generally believe that involvement of the drug court judge is critical to their success in the program. Now, Doug Marlowe did a study, and there have been a number of studies about this, and the relationship with the judge has actually said to be, and as research indicates, the strongest relationship that the participant will have. So it can impact, the relationship with the judge can impact the participant's behavior more than any other relationship in the program. And so the judge is very aware of this reality, and there's been some research around how long a judge should speak, and she really wants to get to know the participants, and she really spends the time and listens and gets to know them. And there's research around 3 minutes that the judge should be speaking to each participant about their life circumstances, about how they're doing in their recovery. And so roughly 3 minutes, she tries to engage with the participant. Now, having said that, with COVID, we are virtually doing court, but we're hoping to move into more in-person court appearances as time goes on. So in order for a participant to graduate, now roughly 20% of our participants graduate the program, which is a really high statistic. For a participant to graduate, they have to complete all 4 phases of the program. They need to be abstinent from illicit substances for 3 consecutive months. So 3 months of negative urine screens, no new offenses within the past 6 months. They need to be having stable housing. And for the final 2 months of the program, they should be engaged in some sort of pro-social behavior, whether that be employment, schooling, or volunteer work. Now, unless they're medically excused and they are on PPMB, so they're on assistance, but otherwise we expect them to be in some sort of employment, schooling, or volunteer work. And I promised research. So here's a little slide on the research. Julian Summers he's from Simon Fraser University, has done a number of studies on drug treatment court and integrated therapeutic court models in general. But what he has found is that the Drug Treatment Court of Vancouver has reduced recidivism by 56% over a 2-year period, and overall criminal reoffending was lowered by 35%. And even though at least 50% of the participants had been considered to be severe risk to reoffend, so those high recidivism risk offenders has been reduced by 35%. That is huge when you look at the general prosecutorial system and community corrections. Drug treatment court certainly has a higher success rate than the other types of community programs. So I will just give a moment. This is some of the things that our graduates have said when they complete our program. I'll give you a moment to read these. This one, you know, it really touches me, and it just really exemplifies the physical and the medical illness and sadness with addiction. So I like to point out in this slide that when a client comes into the program speaking about the real change came for them, many of the clients, when we speak about motivation, many of the clients, when they come into the program, they may not be motivated to make that significant change in their life. They may not even think it's possible, and that's okay. They may just think they want to get out of custody, and that's all. They want to get out of jail, and that's okay. We bring them into the program, and we bring them into the fold of our treatment programming. And as they start to feel more empowered, they start to envision a new life for themselves, and they start to think that rehabilitation is possible, and they start to believe in themselves. So the motivation will shift over time. That was a female participant in 2016. So our drug treatment court we're hitting our 20-year anniversary this year. So we'll be in operation for 20 years, which is quite significant. And since the beginning, we've had over 1,000 clients have participated in the program. Nearly 300 participants have successfully completed the program. So that's a significant number. Research indicates a reduction in both drug reoffending rates and overall criminal reoffending for those individuals involved in our program. So one of the things I want to point out is the success that we have with our Indigenous participants. Research indicates that our drug treatment court in Vancouver has a high success rate with female Indigenous participants. And we really see that in the numbers, and we really see that in each day. We have a number of female Indigenous clients that make it all the way through to graduation and really make a huge change in their life. And part of that is due to the wraparound care that's provided, and it's also due to the culturally relevant programming that we offer for our Indigenous participants. So that concludes my presentation, and I think that we will be taking questions at the end. So I will end it here, and if there are any questions, we will address them at the end.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. I am going to be speaking next. I'm going to be speaking about the other part of the justice partnership. So we've heard from Holly on the MAG perspective about the community courts, and we've heard from treatment providers, but the other part of the justice treatment partnership would be defense counsel, who are often the first point of contact for clients who engage in these programs. And I'm going to be talking about some legal considerations that counsel need to have before the client comes into the program. And I've sort of separated my discussion into two parts. One is knowing the program and knowing your client. So before your client even comes into the program, it is important that you know about how the program is running. So there are different programs for treatment and restorative justice. The ones I'll be referring to are the ones that I work in, which is the Toronto Drug Treatment Court, the Mental Health Court, and the Aboriginal Persons Court. So it's very important prior to coming in that you understand the eligibility criteria of the program and fully understand them so that you can explain those to your client. I know in the Toronto Drug Treatment Court right now, we don't have a wait list, but sometimes there is a wait list. And so when you submit the application for your client, it may take a couple of weeks to get an answer, and then the client may be on a wait list. If you don't know all of the important eligibility criteria, you may be putting your client in a position where they're just sort of in limbo and waiting, and then only to find out that they are not eligible for the program. It's especially problematic if your client is in custody. So it's important that you know what the criteria are and what is expected of your client. If you're not someone who works in those programs regularly, it's important that you speak to someone who does. There's usually duty counsel who work in those programs, other defense counsel, the Crowns, or even the treatment provider who facilitates the program. It's either for drug treatment courts, the treatment providers, Aboriginal organizations in Toronto. It's Aboriginal Legal Services that works with our court. So it is very important that you know what is expected of the client so that you can actually advise your client properly. There are simple things that you may not have considered. For example, for some programs, you need to be out on release. You can't enter the program from custody. So that's an important thing to know if your client is in custody. Some programs require a guilty plea. Some programs only require that the client take responsibility. And some programs, like the mental health diversion program at Old City Hall, doesn't even require that. So it is very important that you understand the eligibility criteria and the basic parts of the program so that you can properly advise your client and speak to them about whether that's the program that they need to be in. Another part, it's very important to understand about treatment and restorative justice court programs, and one that everyone has discussed this morning, is the different role you often have as defense counsel or as counsel of any kind in the program. So as defense counsel, your job is to be a tireless advocate for your client. And you do that, and you still definitely do that in treatment and restorative justice courts, but those courts often work as a team. They're collaborative as opposed to adversarial. And so much of our system is adversarial that when you first come into these courts, it is a bit of a shock. And it's important to understand that your role is going to change slightly. So for example, in a drug treatment court, the common goal is reducing or preventing a client's further engagement in the criminal justice system by addressing their substance use, because that's what's brought them into conflict with the system. Everyone on the team is working toward that goal. So the judge, the Crown, defense counsel, in our court, we have a paralegal, we also have probation and court officers. It's not an adversarial system. We're all working towards that one shared goal. And when you work in the justice system, it often feels so adversarial, and it's a very different experience working in these courts, collaborating and working as a team with a shared goal, as opposed to your side and my side. So it is important that you understand you are going to be in a different role. You obviously still have professional responsibilities. You're going to be a tireless advocate for your client. There is confidentiality. There are professional responsibilities that you have, but those need to be balanced with the shared collaborative approach of treatment and restorative justice courts. Another important aspect to understand with respect to the program is what legal jeopardy your client is going to face. You need to know that so that you can properly inform your client prior to them entering into the program. Clients are often giving up certain rights so that they can benefit from the program, things like a right to a speedy trial, sometimes full disclosure. They may have charter breaches that that have occurred in their cases. In restorative justice and treatment courts, clients are often giving up those rights so that they get the benefit of the program. Most of the programs have a rule and waiver or an agreement form that sets those out. If it doesn't, though, you need to make sure that your client understands those things. It's also important to have a clear picture of the legal jeopardy your client is facing, because that may affect immigration or family court proceedings for your client. So at the outset, before they come in, this is something that you need to turn your mind to. For example, at Old City Hall, our drug treatment court requires a guilty plea and the client will get a criminal record. So that is going to factor into what you're going to discuss with your client before they enter into a program. Other drug treatment courts don't necessarily require one. I know that there are different streams in other courts. There might be withdrawals, but know in your program what is required. It's also very important to know what legal jeopardy your client is going to face if they don't complete the program. So right at the outset, I mean, our hope is always that the client is going to complete the program, but that's not always the case. They are very hard programs to get through for some people, so you need to know beforehand what jeopardy they're going to face. With our Aboriginal diversion program at Old City Hall, we don't withdraw the charges, it's a stay, because the charges are stayed up front and then the client attends a community council hearing with Aboriginal Legal Services. So you need to be able to describe the legal distinction to them. As well with mental health diversion programs, it's generally a withdrawal. Sometimes there's a peace bond. You need to know right off the bat what your client is looking at before they go into a program so that you can explain to them what their jeopardy is. It's also important to understand anything that may be required after the program is completed. So as I said, for mental health diversion, there might be a peace bond. There may also be probation. Our drug treatment court does have probation afterward, and we maintain a connection to the clients in that period after they graduate. We have a dedicated probation officer in the Toronto Drug Treatment Court, and she is the one who takes over all of the probations of the graduates, and they check in with us once a month as part of their probation. So on top of knowing the program, it's also very important that you know your client. As someone who spends a considerable amount of her time working in these courts, I know how important they are. I know the help they provide to people. I drank the Kool-Aid. I am someone who has prepared pitchers and is serving people the Kool-Aid. I know how important these programs are and the success that I've seen in my own clients, but I'm not naive. They're hard. They're not easy programs. So it's important for you to know where your client is on their journey. You need to have some idea of that because the structure of some of the programs, your client may just not be in a place to do the program based on the structure of the program. And then you run the risk of your client incurring more charges and finding themselves in a worse position legally. It's for this reason that some courts, like the Toronto Drug Treatment Court, only accept clients who are considered medium to high risk criminality. So it's usually clients who have a criminal record, who've been involved in the justice system for some time. I know other programs do accept clients with low risk criminality, but those programs also have generally a separate stream because there is an understanding and there is research that shows putting all of them together does make things worse often for the clients who are considered low risk criminality. So it is important for you to know where your client is in their journey. And some programs like the Toronto Drug Treatment Court do have a probationary period. So if your client is sort of on the line, they're not sure if they're fully ready to commit to recovery, if the program has a probation period, that is very helpful because oftentimes the client can just withdraw in that probationary period. Courts like the Drug Treatment Court, they're there for clients who, as I said, are ready to commit to recovery, but it is a complete change to their current life. And so they need to be ready to engage in that process. It's also, I know it sounds kind of obvious, but it's important to understand what issues your client is struggling with and to fully understand that. Is it substance use? Is it mental health? Is it concurrent disorders or a dual diagnosis? You need to know exactly what your client is struggling with so that you can ensure that the program that is best suited for them is addressing those issues. And if the issue is substance use, what substance are they using? Substances like crystal meth and fentanyl do prove to be more challenging for treatment courts. The period of stabilization is longer in the beginning. You may find that your client is incurring some charges at the beginning. I know when I started in the Toronto Drug Treatment Court, cocaine was the main issue, and then it had started to become crystal meth. And then in the last few years, it certainly has been, fentanyl and opioids. So we as a program work as a team and understand the changing nature of that, but you need to know what your client, what substance they're using, and understand that with certain substances, it may be that they're going to incur some charges in the beginning of the program during stabilization. It's also important to know, with respect to the program, do they have the capacity to deal with clients who have a dual diagnosis or are dealing with concurrent disorders? The Toronto Drug Treatment Court, we're extremely lucky. Our service provider is CAMH, so we definitely have all those resources in place. The treatment provider in the treatment court you work with may not have those resources as part of their organization, so it's very helpful early on to advise treatment providers in those courts about all of your clients' issues, be they either substance use or mental health diagnoses. That way they can put in place some supports for when your client comes in or look for supports. In the mental health court, we do have clients who are doing mental health diversion, but if the client also has substance use disorder, we do have a worker at Old City Hall who is a concurrent disorders worker, and he works with those clients. So it is very important so that you're not setting your client up to fail, so that all of the issues that need to be addressed are being addressed and the supports are being put in place for them. And you may have cases where a client starts in one court, but then another issue becomes a problem. So I had a client who was in the drug treatment court, and then his mental health issues became his primary issue of concern. And so in collaboration and with the consultation of the Crowns and the whole treatment team, this client was moved from the drug treatment court to the mental health court. He did mental health diversion and he completed it earlier in the pandemic. And so when you're working in this collaborative team approach, these are the sorts of creative solutions you can come up with to assist clients. I know that we're running really low on time. So just in summary, these courts, the treatment, diversion, and restorative justice programs that are in these courts are extremely important. They do a lot of good, but it is important that lawyers understand the programs and their role in the program so that clients can get the full benefit of this justice treatment partnership. Okay.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left and we have a couple of questions in the chat. So we'll pull those up. And therefore, both Holly and Kemi, who went first. So first question is there a restorative justice component in this model where the victim is included in the process, including access to supports?
Okay, that's a good question. It's interesting because when we sort of took our collective experience at looking at this population, we actually found that many victims chose not to participate in restorative programs with the accused. So a sort of a very specific, deliberate decision was made at the Toronto Northwest to allow victims the opportunity to access services independently of the accused. So we offer enhanced services to victims, for example, including the Toronto Northwest social worker who is available for immediate counseling if required. But it's independent. It is not sort of tied to a restorative program. That said, there are examples that we see, particularly with family members, where it's very important for a more restorative justice program. And so there is the option for that, but it was actually specifically created to allow for both models to sort of coexist.
Okay, thank you. This one is for Holly as well. Holly, I know the Downtown East Justice Center has partnered with our agency, Surrey Place, to provide case management for individuals with a developmental disability. Are there plans for the Toronto Northwest Justice Center to partner with a youth agency to help with the individuals that have or suspect a development disability?
Okay, all of our Justice Center pilots, we are operating only in pilot mode. And so we are going to have to be in a position to sort of demonstrate utility and effectiveness as a court model to both the government and the Ontario Court of Justice before we will sort of expand our model. That said, I do want to mention that the Toronto Northwest, we do work with community case managers and system navigators who do make appropriate referrals to developmental disability supports as appropriate. That said, should expansion be in the cards for justice centers at future, I think a partnership of that nature in order to expand our existing model would certainly be under consideration.
And I think just to add to that, there is a mental health group that's meeting in Northwest, a network of agencies that provide those services. So that would be a natural connection. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, we've hit the 9:45 mark. We're right on time. Good job, everyone. So we'll turn this over to Dennis.
Thank you, Judy, and I'd like to thank all the panelists. Those were great presentations today. We are now going to